Eli, Wilmington, North Carolina. Please go ahead, Eli.
Actually, it's Ellie, different gender.
Ellie, I am so... do you know what?
No
I'm reading off an iPad, and that's exactly what it says. I apologize.
No problem at all. I don't want to use my time correcting that. Obviously, the gentleman, I don't want to promote his name, actually, it is quite intelligent. It's unfortunate that he kind of misuses it. I am Jewish, and I have to so strongly object to his trying to portray his own misguided attempts at politics and talking fast. Not all Jews talk fast, and promoting stereotypes. Number one, he does a great disservice to the Jewish people all over the world by promoting his stereotypes, and he's laughing at it, which I find I hold what he's doing in disdain. I just came from a wonderful Jewish film festival here in Wilmington and saw the film The Jewish Cardinal, and this man and the Catholic Polish clerics did far more when they smartened up and had a little more compassion for people than this guy has. And as far as how he treats
Tell
people,
you what, Ellie, politically, Ellie, do you disagree with Ben Shapiro when it comes to his politics as well?
I'm sorry?
Do you disagree with Ben Shapiro when it comes to his politics as well as some of the things you've already mentioned?
I do disagree with him with some of his politics quite a lot, but it's a separate issue to promote some stereotypes against the Jewish people and using his Jewishness
Terrific.
to sell his...
Let's get a response. That was Ellie in Wilmington, North Carolina. Ben Shapiro.
Well, I really didn't realize that the Grim Reaper of the sense of humor was on the loose today. I mean, seriously. I mean, if the worst stereotype about Jews is that we speak quickly, I think we can deal with that. Really, that one ranks real low on the list of stereotypes I'm going to worry deeply about. I'm going to worry significantly more about a president of the United States who's going to promote a nuclear bomb in Iran, and a president of the United States who has routinely leaked Israeli national security information, and a Democratic Party that's gone along with him, and a Republican Party that basically just signed off on it in the Senate. I'm going to worry more about that and less about whether Jews talk quickly.
How serious is the so-called rift between the Obama administration and Israel?
Extraordinarily serious. But this is what the president wanted all along. I mean, back in 2007, according to David Axelrod, he was already talking about how he wanted to create distance between himself and Israel because he wanted to be the honest broker between Israel and its enemies. And the fact is the president has been radically anti-Israel since he began running for president. His entire staff was staffed by people like Robert Malley, who was negotiating with Hamas, like people like Zbigniew Brzezinski, a foreign policy advisor who was radically anti-Israel under Jimmy Carter, by people, I mean, General Merrill McPeak, who had said that in New York City was filled with Jews who basically ran foreign policy in the United States. And the president has spent his entire life associating with anti-Israel, anti-Semites. I mean, seriously, Rashid Khalidi is an anti-Semite. He's a Palestinian liberation organization terrorist advocate, and he was a close friend of President Obama. President Obama spent time in Jeremiah Wright's church. It was a radically anti-Israel, anti-Semitic church. You spend your entire life in... I've been to synagogue. I've gone to the same synagogue since I was 11 years old. If at any point, the rabbi of the shul had gotten up and started speaking about black people or America, the way that Jeremiah Wright spoke about Jews, white people, and the United States of America, I would have been out of there so fast it would have made your head spin. But Barack Obama sat there for 20 years. Don't tell me he didn't imbibe any of that or believe any of that. The president has a belief system, and the president is acting out his belief system in real time, and that has real ramifications for real people, not just Jews, by the way. You're watching it happen in Egypt, where he's cutting off military shipments to what is a secular regime in the face of a Muslim Brotherhood uprising. He's busily going against a Saudi regime that is really, I mean, listen, I'm not a fan of the Saudis by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a hell of a lot better than the Iranians at this point. The president of the United States is single-handedly turning Iran into a regional power, and this is part of a broader policy of the president of the United States that's both anti-American and anti-Israel and springs from the same anti-Westernism that he represents personally.
John, San Francisco, good afternoon. Ben Shapiro is our guest.
Hello, Ben. Pleasure to talk with you. I just wanted to get your take on something as a fiscally responsible lesser government kind of guy. It makes my blood boil somewhat, is the propensity of the U.S. to take billions of dollars of our taxpayer money and put it towards the National Endowment for Democracy and other such NGOs that take U.S. foreign policy, and it seems as if what they're doing is something we would not accept here, is interfering within the internal politics of countries. And you could see it manifested especially in the Ukraine, where Victoria Nuland bragged that we had spent $5 billion over a period of time to achieve that regime change. And you can see it followed through with the constant propaganda against the people in the east of Ukraine who were more or less against the Maidan movement from the beginning and who were culturally Russian. And it was not them who attacked the Western Ukrainians. It was
John. Hey, John, where did your interest in these issues that you've just discussed come from?
Well, it's just a history. I'm a bit of a history buff going back to World War II, and to understand the Ukraine, it's a very complex country, and the situation is very complex. But I think the facts have not come out in the United States media about what's really going on there, and
all right. Let's hear from Ben Shapiro.
So I'm not familiar with the exact Democratic project that he's talking about, the 501c3 that apparently he's talking about. As far as American policy toward Ukraine, it's been egregious. I mean, the fact is that the United States basically led on the Ukrainian revolution under the assumption that we were going to defend them when the Russians came, and then we didn't defend them when the Russians came. So it's no big shock that was happening. I mean, the President of the United States has so far sold out basically every potential or real ally that the United States has in favor of people that he would prefer to woo. I mean, he's sold out Ukraine and Poland, Czechoslovakia, all of these countries in favor of a Russia that he basically just signed off on sending S-300 missiles to Iran. I mean, the other day he did that. The President of the United States is actively opposed to a more powerful United States and its allies in the world, and somebody's going to fill that gap, and the people who tend to fill that gap are the worst people on the planet.
Helen, Palo Alto, California. I think you might be the last voice today.
Perfect. I'll use my time well. I find it so egregious that he would come and conflate so many slogans and all this information like Jeremiah Wright that the Republicans always call up and something from Obama's past. But anyway, my big issue is how the Republican Party, and if you were aware that both the Congress and the Senate, all the Republicans there are all Christian, and the Republican Party and the Congress, excuse me, are the gatekeeper, they hold the purse strings, and we have no clue about the budget. And did you know that about $22 billion go to faith-based funding, and we don't even know who or what is going there, and most of them are Christians, and how the money for the faith-based funding, and it's almost impossible to get that information without suing for the Freedom of Information Act to get that information, and a lot of that money is funneled, and the Congress has put a moratorium.
All right, you know what, Helen, we're going to leave it there. Ben Shapiro, final comment.
I mean, as far as faith-based organizations and the government's involvement in them, I think it's significantly more dangerous for religious organizations to be involved with the government than not. The strings are always attached. As far as the federal government trying to promote policy through faith-based organizations, I would recommend that people actually look at where that money is going, because a lot of the time it's actually going toward adoption projects and house building for the homeless and this sort of stuff. Now, I actually object to that on the grounds that I don't think the government should be involved in that, but that has nothing to do with, is the money actually being spent on some sort of covert religious attempt to convert everyone to Christianity. As a Jew, I'm not specifically very worried about that in the United States.
Charleston, West Virginia. Tara, this is Book TV on C-SPAN 2, author Ben Shapiro.
Hello, Ben. It's great to talk to you. The question that I have is it possible for states' attorneys general to possibly bring prosecution charges against the Obama administration, against the members of Congress who, thumb their nose at the citizens and the Constitution by sitting back and turning their heads away while we are flooded by illegal aliens? And I'm not afraid to use that term because that's what it is, illegal aliens. And I'm scared because what I see happening is with giving the back taxes for the past 3 years for these people, you know, the free college educations, the housing and everything. To me, that is buying votes for the next election. And what is it going to take to finally have others in Congress besides Ted Cruz and Trey Gowdy and Mike Lee, the great patriots that they are? What is it going to take to get these people to stand up to this administration and tell them to pretty much quit thumbing their finger at the American people?
Thank you, Tara.
Well, people are going to have to get primaried. As far as my own stance on illegal immigration, my feeling about immigration is very obvious. If there's no welfare state, I don't care who comes. I'm totally open borders if there's no welfare state, because if people aren't coming for free stuff, great, come in and work. Seriously, that's totally fine. In fact, if you want to come here and you want to work, I will trade you. I would, if I were king, right, which is a principle to which I'm fundamentally opposed. But if I were king for a day, I would trade the illegal immigrant who wants to work for the guy who was born here and has been sitting on welfare his entire life, because it's your character that matters, not your place of origin. The problem is, of course, that we have this entire system of benefits that we're now giving out to people, and so that draws people here. They're not bad people. I mean, everybody is inherently has selfishness to them. I mean, we're all self-centered. We're all taking benefits from the federal government at some level. I took Pell Grants. Everybody takes something from the federal government. Until we change that mentality, until we stop offering a lot of these things in the first place, then it's going to be a loss leader. As far as what can states' attorney generals do, I mean, the answer is you're watching it happen right now. The state of Texas is suing the federal government over President Obama's amnesty program. It's been temporarily put on hold by an injunction. We'll see if it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court or not. But as long as it is more politically palatable to pander to the Hispanic vote and to the media by pretending that you have a plan that doesn't end with closing the border and at least doing something about the folks who are here illegally, then you don't have a solution. What's amazing to me is both right and left, it's so cynical. It really is. The right is in favor of illegal immigration because they want cheap workers for the corporations. The left is in favor of illegal immigration because they want voters. Nobody is in favor of illegal immigration for the individuals. Here's my view. Everybody who's in the country illegally, I'm not going to say everybody ought to be deported. Everybody ought to be assessed, and we ought to determine whether they are of benefit or of detriment to the United States, and then on an individual level, we should determine whether they get to stay or whether they get to go. It's bewildering to me how the IRS can go through 100 million tax returns every year down to what exactly I ate for lunch 6 months ago at a kosher restaurant, and whether it was a business lunch or not, but they can't track down 14 million people and find out whether it would be good on net for them to be in the country or not.
Ben Shapiro, Tara called from Charleston, West Virginia, seemed like a fan of yours. If she wants to listen to you, read you, where's the best source for her?
So you can read me in a couple of different places. Truthrevolt.org is one of my websites. You can check me out there. You can also check me out at Breitbart News, where I'm a senior editor at large. And then if you want to listen to me, then KRLA 870, which is the morning answer, is the name of our show, 6 to 9 every morning Pacific time, so 9 to noon on the East Coast. You can listen on KRLA 870. And then in the afternoon, I do a second radio show, so I do 6 hours a day. My second radio show is 3 to 6 in the afternoon Pacific time on KTTH 770 in Seattle. So you can just Google me and both of those will come up.
And you also tweet. What's your handle?
Oh yeah, I tweet a lot. As you know, I mean, I'm rather volatile on Twitter. So it's at Ben Shapiro. If you want to see wild and crazy stuff, political debates extraordinaire, as well as odd tweets about Bill Clinton's 1970s kinship to Chewbacca. And if you've ever seen what Bill Clinton looked like in the 1970s, there is a picture of Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton standing next to one another, and I tweeted that out recently with the caption, "Chewie, we're home."
We will make America great again.